questions, feel free. I think the speakers are willing to take some questions. I'm also, I think we have plenty of time here. So if you all have questions, fire away and just let the speakers know what they are. Otherwise, I appreciate you coming in. So, any questions? Just raise your hand if you do. Chris.
I love the notion that we could be considered part of the triangle. And I'm wondering if that notion has been brought forward and where, if that's something that's been out there. And
I know I brought it forward. I mean, but it's, who makes that decision?
It's a good question.
I mean, so to me, that's like, CFEDC and the Entrepreneurship Center can start, for example, saying it.
It's a branding campaign, just like anything else. I mean, it's like Governor Perdue calling it the American South. When she goes to Korea, she goes to
I don't think that's one way to wait for.
For the military calling it the American Defense Corridor from here all the way up. That's how we're helping them to brand that too, saying in the American Defense Corridor, we're becoming part of the American Defense Corridor. So it's really just a matter of getting key players to use that terminology to accept it and see.
I think the area is struggling for a brand right now, and that should be part of that perspective, no doubt about it.
Morale would be a good one to be around for it.
And even, it first occurred to me that when I read the study that tourism here is so, it's getting very fragmented and dysfunctional because of all the different little pockets. And so what they were saying was that up in the Research Triangle Park, that the beaches here in New Hanover County were not considered a known destination versus, like, let's say, Myrtle Beach and the Outer Banks. So here you have the road 2 hours straight shot right in, and they don't get it, and it's because of a failure in imagination, branding, and identification. So you gotta do something. And I would think, if the tourism industry and the real estate industry doesn't have motivation to see that happen, I don't know who would, because they've got to do something to do something different to shake the cobwebs.
Well, the overall economic development strategy too, a lot of folks are looking at as regions now, and so we would even be clustered in not only with the Triad and Triangle, but also Atlanta. I mean, because Atlanta is really the largest municipal, the largest urban area close, to us. So a lot of folks are even looking like to Atlanta, all the way south to Savannah, and then all the way north up to parts of Virginia as this whole sort of, again, like southeastern region, if you will, or whatever, in terms of economic development. So I think it's really important as a nation that we look at ourselves that way, because it's really, like Tom's saying, to sort of bundle our assets in that way is much more intelligent than sort of the splintered kind of factional way, this sort of American bootstrap independent kind of notion that everyone has, but to actually cluster ourselves and brand ourselves in a way that's going to, whether it's an American Defense Corridor, whether it's American Southeast, whether it's whatever, whatever.
There's a thing called trianglebeach.com. Triangle Beach, they run a summer event and a spring event, and it's massive. Concert, hotels being booked, all that. They do it in Myrtle Beach. So it's North Carolina trianglebeach.com, and they run the event in Myrtle Beach.
That's insane. What if you created a different brand like a NC Research Star with the Research Triangle in the center?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can do it. To me, my point is just like, the perception that I continue to detect is almost a self-defeating identity here that leads to a lot of the actions, whether it's in our schools or or in the formal economic development groups, right? They have this self-defeating thing. Well, we can't attract that here. We don't have a legitimate stake in competing for that sector or that company or whatever.
Along those same lines, I'm not familiar with how much kilowatts it takes, but can we get a wind farm off the coast of North Carolina? Could they fund the Atlanta region? Can we generate that much electricity with the wind turbines?
Yeah, so the 140 gigawatt is the overall potential. That's obviously, you can't utilize as much as that. But UNC Chapel Hill, they did a study back in 2009 showing that feasibly around 50 gigawatts. And then our organization, on the other side, we identified about 36 potential, and that's over 100% of North Carolina's electrical needs. And so, I mean, there's a large potential for.
So we could brand ourselves from Atlanta to here and
Absolutely.
the wind
With
farm.
solar on the, with
Richard
wind
Flores
on the coast and the
Yeah.
Midwest, with wind on the coast and the Midwest, with as much solar, as much as it's not even low-hanging fruit. I mean, it's fruit on the ground that's ripe that we're stepping on. As far as like getting our existing building stock, I mean, 98% of our existing building stock is like, you know, it's like putting gas into a tank with a hole in it. None of us would do that, but that's what we're doing every day, you know. And so if we put energy efficiency measures into our existing building stock, we increase our CAFE standards because we get like 2 miles per gallon, you know, as compared to the EU and everywhere else. If we, you know, bring up wind, as he's saying, solar, energy efficiency, I mean, we would be energy independent overnight as a nation. I mean, literally, you know, I mean, literally would. And then we're not even talking about biofuels and algae, we're not even talking about, you know, all these sort of other methods of alternative energy. So, again, everything that we need is there. It's just a matter of restructuring our modality to take advantage of it.
If North Carolina or the coast was able to attract a wind farm, and it did succeed also in attracting the industry to develop that, has there been a study on what kind of economic impact that would have on this region and the sustainability?
Yeah, the one slide I didn't go into specifically, but they have done some studies in Europe and how much per megawatt, how many jobs that attracts. So they're looking at, I'd have to go back to the presentation, I can send that out to interested folks, but there have been studies showing, you know, per megawatt of offshore wind that you bring to regions, how that translates into the economic aspects and long-term and short-term job creation. So you're looking at, I think, short-term jobs utilizing, I think what we talked about in the slide, 4% of our potential North Carolina, about 40,000 short-term jobs with around, I think, 9,000 permanent long-term jobs.
Wait, has that been communicated to the governor or the other groups that are trying to get tax incentives to bring heavy industry in and things like that?
So in North Carolina, that's another reason why we're trying to get out and doing these kind of forums, because North Carolina doesn't really have the same coordinated front as a lot of these other states that are attracting wind energy to their state. So Governor Perdue did, I think in the last month or so, say she said she wanted to be the first state to bring windmills to the coast. Which yeah, I don't know if she thought we were like in Netherlands.
People say windmills,
Yeah.
we're like, no, we're not milling anything.
Yeah, I don't know if she thought we were like 19th century Netherlands, but there is much more, I think, a focus in the Commerce Department. There's some really good people working at the state level. I don't think North Carolina is going to be the first, but with our potential that's out there, I think it can be the leader.
It's inevitable because it has to happen because it was stupid not to happen. But like Tom pointed to too, I mean our state congressional leadership right now is after 120 years, you know, dominated by folks that are trying to remove voting rights for, you know, I mean, we're getting pulled back into the 1800s here, literally right now politically, and it's very scary. I mean, I love Republicans. I have a Republican family. Or I'm not a Democrat or Republican. I'm an independent. Okay, so it's not an indictment of anyone. But if you just look at the policies and what they're trying to do, it's frightening. It's so scary. So those of us that are sort of on this pushing edge, you know, all the people in this room included, you know, we're literally in a tug of war right now with policymakers that are trying to drag us back into the dark ages. So, you know, it's really key that these types of forums and folks like yourself, like, write to Governor Perdue. I can give you, you know, connections with Crisco and all these guys at Commerce. You know, there's all sorts of people that need to hear from the constituency of this region. I mean, literally just start writing them on a daily basis, just send. You know, because that's really the only way that it's going to.
These guys, the guys at Parker and the guys over at Climate, they said that one of the cultural issues that you deal with in the United States is that our Congress is made up of lawyer is the #1 profession. And number 2, I think, is small business owner. I think number 2 is small business owner. But anyway, in like, you know, BRICA, right? Brazil, Russia, India, China, Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, where there are some thriving economies now, high-growth economies. Most of their leadership, and it may not be democracy, but their leadership making, you know, the strategic decisions, engineering, math, science, you know, the background. They're not sitting around debating climate science. I assure you. And that one of the horrifying things in the United States is that as we do that, there's this, like Kevin described as being this anti-intellectualism in the United States that is causing even Deutsche Bank to pull out and even put businesses where they would much rather put them in the United States, but when they run into these guys, you know, or gals, or whoever they are, that are just crazy, you know, and like the Secretary of Energy in the United States is a Nobel laureate in physics, and you know he's going crazy because the debate up on the Hill right now is about the polluters who are making the case that, well, you know, it's better to pollute here in the United States because if they make this product, fill the blanks. So that, for example, if they make that in another country, they're going to do much worse damage to the ozone level. And Shu was saying, it's absolutely not true. It used to be true. It's absolutely not true. They're well beyond us. They're killing us. And it's simply not true. But that is driving policy in the current majority of the country.